I am Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book, A Beautiful Challenge, no other than Mr. Michael T.Brown. Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Michael, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Good evening, Daniel. Thanks for me. It's great to be with you. I'm an author. I'm also a counselor, and I really like helping people. And I get the opportunity to speak to your audience today, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Michael T. Brown, thank you so much for sharing your talents to the world. And today, let's talk about your A Beautiful Challenge. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, sir, Daniel. This book, A Beautiful Challenge, is really about relationships and how we have successful and healthy relationships. And what really led me to write this book was uh, giving people the opportunity to think about what are some of the principles, what are some of the strategies that really make up and comprise a healthy relationship. And in the book, we talk about, the importance of being an effective communicator, having emotional intelligence, being resilient. We talk about parenting and discipline in the book, and also how do we recover from pain, difficulty, and trauma. But really, throughout the book, it's about encouraging and empowering individuals to know that regardless of maybe what you've gone through, the family life that you've had, or any difficulty that you've had, um, healthy relationships must be fought for and won. And there's tools and strategies to help us win. And that's what the book is about.
So, Mr. Michael, what are the key components of a healthy relationship and why are they important?
I would say communication is key. Trust is important, but also love. When you love an individual and you care for them, right, you want to see them do well, you want to see them successful. But in order to do that, it takes skill. And a lot of times we get into relationships without a certain amount of communication skills. Some of the skills I talk about in the book are the ability to tell how we feel in a way that's constructive. And one way of doing that is through using I statements. We tell how we feel, but we do it in such a way that just does not point the finger of blame at other people, but we take ownership for our own thoughts, our own feelings. But in order to do that, right, there has to be a willingness. There has to be a willingness to want to be an effective communicator, to be a trustworthy person, but also have love and compassion for other people. Some things are taught, some things are caught, right? So
Yes.
when you meet a person, when romance starts, the flame might be burning, pretty high early on, but then you get to know the individual more, and it takes skill to maintain a healthy relationship, and that's something that I'm passionate about doing.
Beautifully articulated, Mr. Michael. And how can effective communication strengthen relationships?
So communication is a skill, right? It involves talking and listening. And one way to make sure that we're communicating effectively is when we can prove that we heard the other person. I don't know about you, Daniel, but if you've ever been in a conversation with somebody that you could tell they were not listening, they were just waiting to make their point or give some type of response, that doesn't feel good. But what does feel good is when an individual can prove that they heard us. And one way of doing that is just hearing, just listening attentively with the intent of proving that we heard the other person. So stating back that which we heard. So if someone tells us how they feel or ask something of us, if we can prove that we heard them
Yes.
by using their words back to them, then that lets the individual know, right, that you've been heard. Our parents would do it this way, right? They may say to us, tell me back what I just told you. What comes home in that book bag today, or what do you need to do when you get home from school? That was their opportunity to gauge whether or not we were listening. School teachers do it, right? They're not just a great teacher or professor when they've delivered a great lesson. A great teacher or professor would know that they've done a good job when the student has proved that they've learned. And I think that same principle applies in any type of relationship, whether it's personal or professional, to be able to prove that we heard the other person. And that creates a safe space where talking and listening can flow freely, where understanding is increased. So I messages, I statements help with that. Reflective listening helps with that. And so does an assertive request. So that's where we ask for what we want moving forward, right? I would appreciate it if you did X, Y, Z. So we tell how we feel, prove that we heard the other person, ask the other person to prove that they heard us, and then ask for what it is that you want. And I think those skills can go a long way.
Yes, certainly. Let it go. And moving forward, people, and living at the moment. What role does trust play in building and maintaining healthy relationships?
Trust is critical. You know, trust can be built in small raindrops, but it can be emptied out in buckets. It can take a while to build trust, but one decision, a couple bad decisions, trust can be lost quickly. So I think trust, there needs to be a strong desire. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to be a trustworthy person, right? To have good character, to have integrity, to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. And whether it's a personal relationship, whether it's professional, the way we show up each day builds trust. How do we build trust? I think through consistent behavior, through honesty, through character, through integrity, by being a person of our word. Now, no one's necessarily perfect in that area. I know I'm not. But if we're intentional about it, we can get better day by day.
Yes, definitely. So, what are the common challenges in relationships and how can they be overcome?
Common challenge. I think communication is one. Lack of trust is another one. I would also say um, pride and ego can be really a big part of that. And how do we chip away at pride? How do we deal with our ego? Well, I think daily is a way to do it, making it an issue, and really asking ourselves, right, what do I want to get at? What can I add to this relationship? And how can I make sure that the other person is also pouring into me? And, you know, that goes back to the character piece. In order to deal with pride, I think we have to be willing to let go of some of our ego. I like the acronym EGO, edging God out. I think there's a spiritual component to it as well, that when we realize that the other person we're talking to is God's children, God's child as well, they have value, they have meaning, they have significance, then that can clean the lens that we view them through. But the only way to do that, right, is through personal growth,
Yes.
to work on ourselves, to invest in our mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health. So a healthy individual, I think, makes up a healthy relationship. So somebody who may be saying, hey, why do I keep running into the same relationship challenges? Or why do I keep dating the same person? Maybe it's because we keep being the same person. But if we'll grow and develop and improve ourselves, I think that'll help chip away at some of that pride and some of that ego. Is when we realize that we all need grace and can give grace to others. And I say that's a daily walk, continuing to invest in our mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health.
Very well said. Mr. Michael, I like the way you say it. Very well said. So,
Thank you.
how does empathy contribute to stronger and more meaningful connections?
Excellent question, Daniel. I think empathy is a big part of emotional intelligence. EQ, we hear a lot about IQ. I think EQ matters as well, right?
Yes,
And EQ deals with some components I'd highlight. One being self awareness, right? Self regulation, social skills, motivation, and empathy. Empathy says, how might the other person feel? Sympathy says, right, I extend maybe uh, I may feel bad for you, and I may extend myself in that way. Empathy says, let me try to put myself in your shoes. And I can't think of a more salient time than 2025, the days we're the times we're facing now, where empathy is so important. Every day we get the opportunity to decide, am I going to deal from empathy, an empathetic standpoint, or from a selfish standpoint? Empathy is intentional. So there's a question that I challenge your audience with, as I challenge myself in an interaction with a person. Maybe you ask yourself this question: where might the other person be coming from? Where we seek to understand, then to be understood. Both matter, understanding others and being understood by others, but sometimes leaders go first. I think that's a key factor. And I think great leaders have empathy. They try to put themselves in the shoes of the other person. We might not ever get it right because we're not walking in someone else's shoes, but that desire to want to walk, to understand where someone's coming from, can go a long way and help build a bridge towards other people. You know, Daniel, some people are good at blowing up bridges and when it comes to relationships.
Yes.
But it takes a certain skill set to be constructive and build relationships. You know, some things are inherited, other things are fought for. In healthy relationships, I believe, are fought for and won. And each day we get the opportunity to fight for our relationships, personal and professional. And empathy goes a long way in that.
Totally agree. So, what are the signs of a healthy versus unhealthy relationship?
I think how you feel in that relationship matters. Do you find yourself with joy and love and peace? Do you find yourself connected to the other person? Or is it hard? Does it feel like you're climbing a mountain all the time, or does it flow like a river? Now, any relationship's going to have its challenges and have its ups and downs, but I think how we feel matter, how we think, how it affects our daily lives, right? Is that person, a healthy relationship, values being added? Relationships that are unhealthy take away from us. We find ourselves with less energy. I think that's a good homework assignment to think about our friends, our family members. Who's adding value? Who's taking value away? Are we adding value to others? Are we not adding value to others? So I think that's what healthy looks like. In many ways, Dan, you kind of know it when you feel it, when you see it.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So, how can forgiveness and conflict resolution improve relationships?
Oh, great question. I think you think about a marriage relationship. I say in many ways, marriage is a lesson in forgiveness. Right?
Yes.
Can you keep showing up day after day, extending yourself, giving grace to others? Forgiveness, right, does not always equal reconciliation. It might not be best to remain in that situation, but forgiveness says, let me let go of any bitterness, any resentment or animosity that I might be feeling towards someone. Maybe whether it's a colleague or a loved one. Forgiveness doesn't mean they get a free pass to hurt you again.
Yes.
But at the same time, unforgiveness, well, I heard it put this way: unforgiveness is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. Unforgiveness can corrode the container that carries it. So when someone says, you know what, I'm going to choose to forgive, I think in many ways, never are we more like God than when we choose to forgive. The same way we would hope someone would forgive us when we mess up. And that
Yes.
can be difficult. Not that it's easy. It can be a process. It's you know, it's hard to forgive, for example, if someone has not apologized or even recognized their behavior. But I don't know that it's mandatory. Some people may need to go to a gravesite and forgive, or just reflect in memory, or might not have the opportunity to reconcile the relationship. But we can still forgive. That way we can let go of any resentment, animosity, bitterness that may be hurting the individual.
So, Mr. Michael, I have a new podcast coming this February, Mental Health 101. Would you like to be part of this podcast as a contributor? Let's talk about mental health.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invite. It's so important, Daniel, that we address our mental health, whether in a clinical sense or things that we do to take care of ourselves. You know,
Yes.
Some people might need to meet with a therapist, a psychiatrist, or a psychologist. Some people, it may be more just having someone to talk to as a family member or a colleague or a friend, a coach, a life coach. Um, but any place that we can go to talk about our feelings, to help someone help us navigate our thought process, but ultimately get strategies and tools to help us navigate life. We know life can be very challenging. I heard it put this way, to every life, some rain must fall. We all are going to face
Yes.
adversity, difficulty. Some people, pain or trauma. Good news is that there are answers. There are strategies. There are ways to navigate that. And being intentional about addressing our mental health goes a long way. And I encourage whoever is listening, maybe you're struggling, maybe you're suicidal, maybe you're depressed. Sitting and talking with someone might not solve all those problems, but it can help you navigate to maybe help you get to some other solutions. Yeah.
Yes, people, please do listen to my baby podcast, Mental Health 101, this coming February 3, with my co host, Mr. G. Mick Smith. And of course, Mr. Michael will be featured this coming month. So, Mr. Michael, what would be your advice for those people out there want to write their book?
Great question. I would say start with an idea. What idea do you want to communicate to the world? I think all of us have gifts, talents, attributes, skills, and we all have a story to tell. And for those who feel compelled to still tell their story, uh, just get started. Start writing. Don't worry so much about it being so polished. Get your ideas on paper. Have a phone nearby. You may be riding down the road and have an idea, and you just need to do a voice memo. Get those ideas down. Think about the message you want to communicate, and think of reasons why you will win. Think of reasons why you will succeed. Think of people who are going to be positively impacted by telling your story, and give little to no thought to why you won't be successful. Because I believe in many ways we get what we think about. So if we think success, if we think winning, if we think author, if we think story to tell, be intentional about getting that story out. What story ought not die with you? Write something that will outlive you. And the
And
books, our
yes,
artists can help, right? They put the information, the tools, the strategies out there. Don't be selfish. Tell your story. Put it out there. That's what I tell them.
yes, people, don't be selfish and stop procrastinating. If you have the passion to write, write, and share to the world. And Mr. Michael, what will be your short-term and long-term goals in writing?
Short-term, long-term goals when it comes to writing. Uh, Short-term, to continue to promote the books that I have, that we can reach more people. Long-term, to think of more ideas, more creative ways to get to reach people, whether that's through written format, through podcasts like we're doing now, uh, to be open, to what other downloads may come through me that can impact other people. And I want to just pause and thank you, Daniel, for not being selfish and sharing this platform here tonight, and for the work that you're doing around the world to let people such as myself to let their voice be heard. Just know that it's making an impact, and stay encouraged and keep doing what you're doing, and others can be inspired to do the same.
Thank you so much, Mr. Michael. And what strategies can be used to maintain long-term relationships, both romantic and platonic?
Strategies to help with that. I would say, first of all, be intentional. Realize that anything worth having is worth fighting for. Someone might not ever have their name written on a bulletin or on a podcast or on a TV, but you can write your name in the hearts of other people. You never know who you might encourage, who you might inspire. You never know who you might run into that may inspire the world. So I say, right, treat every person the best to our ability with the value that they have. See them as valuable. See yourself as valuable. And realize that it's not always just a lack of will that blocks healthy relationships. Sometimes it's a lack of skill. The good news is that these skills can be taught. My book can help with that. There's lots of other books, obviously, that are out there that can help with that. For those who may be struggling in a relationship, whether romantic or even professional, a coach, a counselor, a mentor can help you navigate that. Sometimes we might need a third party. But at the end of the day, when you love God and you love people, we need to put the work in to maintain those relationships. So be intentional, put the work in, and keep the heart for love and compassion flowing.
Flow, people, flow. Let it flow. So to wrap up our discussion for tonight, Mr. Michael, how can individuals foster a culture of emotional safety and vulnerability in their relationships?
Great question. I think creating a safe space to do that matters. One principle I would say is connect before you correct. Some would say, put it this way, right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. In order to do that, it takes time, energy, and effort. So set time aside for that relationship. Maybe there's a mom or a grandma you need to call, or an auntie or an uncle who you haven't talked to in a while. Set that time aside, right? Be willing to be open and transparent, to share how you feel, ask for what you want. But sometimes it's really, right, it's just about being present. I remember a minister shared some years back, and it really stood out. He said, one of the greatest ministries we can have is the ministry of presence. The ability to just show up, not always know what to say or what to do. Some of the greatest impacts in life, right, are when people just showed up for us. Be present. And that means to be present means we ought not live in the past where regret lives. Not live too far out in the future where anxiety lives. But to keep bringing it back to the present. To show up for the people in our lives now. Add value. And allow them to add value to you.
Live at the moment and let it go, as we are talking about, people. So, Mr. Michael, thank you so much for sharing your book to the world. We are looking for more empowering book like this. So, Mr. Michael, can you please invite our listeners to support your a beautiful challenge?
Yes. Thank you, Daniel, again for having me. They can get the book on my website, brownsleadership.com. Hopefully you'll put that in the chat or wherever. They can find me on X at T.Brown98. And from my website, they can reach out to me from there. And go out and get it. Look forward to hearing from people. Thanks again for having me.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Michael, because if you support him, more and more empowering books to come. So, Mr. Michael, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.